Okay, so I just finished watching season one of Monsters at Work, and I was possibly thinking of doing individual reviews on each episode, but I thought I'll talk about more as a season. So, Monsters at Work is a sequel to Monsters Inc., and this one is actually a sequel compared to Monsters University, which was a prequel. So this TV series picks up basically right after the events of the first Monsters Inc. And yeah, now if you're thinking, Mike and Sully are gonna be, major characters in this, they are in it, but they're basically side characters. They're basically, there because, well, they were in the original. But this is basically, about the new characters that are in this, and the main one being Tyler, who we actually get to see at Monsters University very briefly at the beginning of the season, which was a nice little thing done at the beginning of the season just to kind of tie everything, together. And he is accepted as a scarer, but unfortunately, when he finally gets to Monsters Incorporated, it's being turned from doing scaring to doing laughing because that generates more power. I do like the thing that they do in this throughout this season, and that is the fact that although laughter generates more power, getting monsters that can actually, get the kids to laugh is a lot more difficult. So, yeah, although getting the laughter generates more power, it's actually harder to do. So, I did like that angle, and that is something that kind of goes on throughout the season. There's only really one kind of season arc to this season, and that is of Tyler basically trying to train as a jokester while he's working with the Mythbusters, who are basically, the crew who basically make sure everything goes and runs perfectly and that. And yeah, I will start off by saying the animation, despite being a TV series, like it is on par with the Pixar original. I wouldn't say it was on par with Pixar's, recent films. I wouldn't say that, but it is definitely on par with the original. In fact, I'd even, I'd say it's on par with Monsters University. I'd say it's on par with that. I wouldn't say it's as quite as good as their more recent stuff. Basically, from Toy Story 4 onwards, when they started rendering their films in true 4K. I would say from then on, just like no, not quite that. But this is excellent animation, and if this was Max, if this was a Pixar film, then yeah, the animation is definitely up there, and it's definitely one of the best. Yeah, I mean, calling it a TV show because it is, although it's obviously on a streaming service, it is definitely possibly the best animated, or one of the best animated TV shows, at least in CGI, that I've ever seen. So, yeah, animation gets top notch, and also the acting. People like Billy E. Crystal obviously returns, which was really great to have him back, and it's like he hasn't been away from the character a day. And even Jennifer Tilly comes back. Yeah, I was really surprised because whenever I hear Jennifer Tilly's voice, I just literally Tiffany from the Chucky films just pops into my head. So it's really weird. But I was just like, oh yeah, Jennifer Tilly. She was in the original. She was Mike's girlfriend. Just like, okay. But yeah, that was. But yeah, the only real arc is obviously Tyler really trying to become a jokester, and Mike and Sully are put in charge of Monsters Inc., and they basically have to prove that they're able to run the company, which doesn't really come into much of an effect until the final episode, the finale, where Roz comes back. Which, yeah, they got rid of Roz for most of the season. Although they replace Roz with her sister, who looks exactly the same, except with pink hair. And Mike even makes, a joke out of this at the end, thinking that they're the same person. But yeah, Roz comes back in the season finale and says, okay, you're not generating enough power, so you're either, you're going to be shut down or switched back to scaring. And there's a really nice scene between Tyler and Sully in this finale that basically Tyler says, don't you, Sully, don't you want to go, back to scaring, because then, you'll be the top dog in that again, essentially. And there's a really nice scene where Sully says that after, seeing how scared Boo was of him when Sully accidentally scared her, it made him look at himself. It was a really nice thing to, bring that back in. That was, a really nice sort of a emotional moment, and, it kind of brought with through a bit, kind of a bit of sweet to it. Now, the way that I'm going to be talking about spoilers, so if you haven't seen Monks Goes Out Work, then yeah, highly suggest you see that. I'd say so far probably it's the only like legitimately good show on Disney Plus, like in terms of their original stuff that's gone directly to them so far. Obviously, there's not much, and this is their only animated one to come out so far. But yeah, I do highly recommend it. But yeah, I'm going to talk about spoilers because I've got to talk about the finale. So in episodes 9 and 10 of the season, Tyler kind of, finally accepts that, yeah, he's not funny and he's not going to be a jokester, and he's fine working with the Mythbusters. And yeah, I thought that is where it was just going to lay off, but no, they decide to make Tyler a jokester after all because of something that accidentally happened in the Bring Your Kids to Work Day episode. I can't remember what they decided to call it in this, but it's basically Bring Your Kids to Work Day, and he made a kid laugh in that one. So completely accidentally, but he did. But yeah, by the end of the season, he does become a jokester. I do like the fact though. He is not the one who saved it. Like Mike is still the one who is, the best jokester. He is the one who is the funniest. Though Tyler does come up with part of the solution that does save the day, and which is designing a bigger canister sinks laugh power hold generates more energy, so they need bigger canisters to hold it. So yeah. But the ending to the season is a nice, bittersweet, and it kind of wraps everything up. But obviously, it could still get a season 2. In fact, that is something that happens at the end of the credits of episode 10. It's like, hey, where's the season 2? And if there is a season 2, I'll be interested to see where it goes, and also if all the same characters will be back who were introduced in this season. We don't get, really to know that much about all of them, to be honest. Yeah, but something that could be expanded upon in a second season, which I do hope we get. Now, there are obviously clear, sort of budgetary things in this. For example, about 90% of this season takes place in Monsters Incorporated, in mainly just a few locations, and that is clearly where the budget is saved on this, and just having a handful of locations. So something for season 2 would be nice to go to a few different locations, just in the season. That would be something, just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, because yeah, it would be interesting to see, for example, what Tyler's home life would be in comparison to, his work life, because again, everything is just at the office at work. So yeah, but overall, I would say this is a really good season, and I would say that this is definitely a good continuation. But I will also say, if you're expecting this to be a story about Mike and Sully, just like, yeah, they're in it and they have small little bits in it, but it's not really about them, to be honest. And it kind of feels like half the time it's trying to be like a feature film sequel, just separated into parts, and other times it feels episodic. Yeah, it kind of stumbles a little bit with that until it kind of gets into the flow with things. I would definitely say the latter episodes are generally better than the middle. The middle episodes, I would say, are the weakest, where it just feels like, okay, they've got the premise and everything set up, and then they're not quite sure how to do it, so they kind of do office antics for a bit. So I would say the first, couple of episodes and the last couple of episodes are generally the highlights. The first two episodes, obviously, where they're, setting everything up and setting up the premise and that. And then the last two episodes, they seem to know where they want to go and, what they want to do with everything. So, yeah. But anyway, that's my quick thoughts on Monsters at Work Season 1. So hopefully we'll get a Season 2 next year. Or who knows.